Shabbat Shalom. Shout out Grindstone. The ministries, Proverb 27:17, which we'll read on the 27th of this month if you're following our Proverbs. Are you following our Proverbs? Father Yahweh, you are so great and so glorious, and I thank you so much for all the fellowship that you've given me today. And I ask that you continually teach these people how to fellowship better. Continually teach me how to fellowship better. Bless all these people. Bless all these viewers. They are so great. They are so awesome. And we all bow to you humbly, who is greater and more awesome, and the Aleph, and the Tav, and forgive us our debts, and forgive us our trespasses, and help us forgive others. Father Yahweh, you are the great and the glorious, and I love you, and I pray this in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Woo! All right. Psalm 9. Aleph, I praise you, O Yahweh, with all my heart. I declare all your wonders. I rejoice and exult in you. I sing praise to your name, O Most High. Bet, when my enemies turn back, they stumble and perish before you. For you executed my right and my cause. You sat on the throne judging in righteousness. Gimel, you have rebuked the nations. You have destroyed the wrong. You have wiped out their name forever and ever. Hey, the enemy is no more. Ruins everlasting. And you have uprooted the cities. Even their remembrance has perished, but Yahweh abides forever. He is preparing his throne for judgment, and he judges the world in righteousness. He judges the peoples in straightness. Wav. And Yahuwah is a refuge for the crushed one, a refuge in times of distress. And those who know your name trust in you, for you have not forsaken those who seek you, O Yahuwah. Zion. Sing praise to Yahuwah, who dwells in Sion. Declare his deeds among the peoples, for he remembers the seekers of bloodshed. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted. Het. Show favor to me, O Yahuwah. See my affliction by those who hate me. You who lift me up from the gates of death, so that I declare all your praise. In the gates of the daughters of Sion, I rejoice in your deliverance. Tet. The nations have sunk down in the pit which they made. In the net which they hid, their own foot is caught. Yahuwah has made himself known. He has done right ruling. The wrong is snared in the work of his own hands. Meditation, Selah. Yod. The wrong returned to Sheol. All the nations that forget Elohim. Kaf. For the needy is not always forgotten, neither the expectancy of the poor lost forever. Arise, O Yahuwah. Do not let man prevail. Let the nations be judged before your face. Put them in fear, O Yahuwah. Let the nations know they are but men. Selah. I also need to sing, because I promised you that I would sing 7 and 8 later, and so I need to do that. O Yahuwah, my Elohim, in you I have taken refuge. Save me from all my pursuers, and deliver me, lest they tear at my throat like a lion, rending in pieces, with no one to deliver. O Yahuwah, my Elohim, if I have done this, if there is unrighteousness in my hands, if I have done evil to him who was at peace with me, or have plundered my enemy without cause, let my enemy pursue me and overtake my being, and trample my life to the ground, and lay my esteem in the dust. Arise, O Yahuwah, in your displeasure, lift yourself up against the rage of my adversaries, and awake for me. You shall command judgment, and let the congregation of the peoples gather about you, and over them return on high. Yahuwah judges the peoples. Judge me, O Yahuwah, according to my righteousness and according to my integrity within me. Please let the evil of the wrong be ended and establish the righteous, for the righteous Elohim is a trier of hearts and kidneys. My shield is upon Elohim, who saves the upright in heart. Elohim is a righteous judge, and El is enraged every day. If one does not repent, he sharpens his sword. He bends his bow and makes it ready, and he prepared for himself instruments of death. He makes his arrows hot for pursuers. See, he who is bound with wickedness and has conceived trouble and brought forth falsehood, he has made a pit and dug it out, and falls into the ditch he made. His trouble turns back upon his own head, and his wrongdoing comes down on the top of his head. I give thanks to Yahuwah according to his righteousness, and the praise of Yahuwah Most High. I'm going to continue these, and then there's a book that actually has like music to the Psalms, so let's see if I can get my hands on one of them before I do 10 and stuff. And I'm gonna just real quick, I'm gonna see if I can get a beat going. I say a beat, but like rhythm, I guess, would be the one to listen to some music. Oh, Yahuwah, our Master, how excellent is your name in all the earth, you who set your splendor above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and infants you have founded strength, because of your adversaries, to put an enemy and avenger. For I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have established. What is man that you remember him, and the sons of man that you visit him? Yet you have made him a little less than Elohim, have crowned him with esteem and splendor. You have made him rule over the works of your hands. You have put all under his feet, all sheep and oxen, also the beasts of the field, the birds of the heavens, and the fish of the sea, passing through the paths of the seas. O Yahuwah, our Master, how excellent is your name in all the earth. Okay. Let's see if I know you guys know this one. We're going to sing Psalm 9 to it. Aleph, I praise you in Yahuwah. With all my heart, I declare all your wonders. I rejoice and exult in you. I sing praise to your name, O Most High. That when my enemies turn back, they stumble and perish before you. For you executed my right and my cause. You sat on the throne, judging in righteousness. Gimel, you have rebuked the nations. You have destroyed the wrong. You have wiped out their name forever and ever. Hey, the enemy is no more, ruins everlasting, and you have uprooted the cities, even their remembrance has perished. But Yahuwah abides forever. He is preparing his throne for judgment, and he judges the world in righteousness. He judges the people in straightness. Vav, and Yahuwah is a refuge for the crushed one, a refuge in times of distress, and those who know your name trust in you. For you have not forsaken those who seek you, O Yahuwah. Zayin, sing praise to Yahuwah who dwells in Zion. Declare his deeds among the peoples, for he remembers the seekers of bloodshed. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted. Had show me favor to me, O Yahuwah. See my affliction by those who hate me. You lift me up from the gates of death, so that I declare all your praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion. I rejoice in your deliverance, that the nations have sunk down in the pit which they made, in the net which they hid. Their own foot is caught. Yahuwah has made himself known. He has done right ruling. The wrong is snared in the work of his own hands. Meditation. Yod, the wrong return to Sheol, all the nations that forget Elohim Kaf. For the needy is not always forgotten, neither the expectancy of the poor lost forever. Arise, O Yahuwah, do not let man prevail, let the nations be judged before your face. Put them in fear, O Yahuwah, let the nations know that they are but men. Praise Yahuwah! Alright, that was a little bit better. We're getting somewhere. I mean, I know a church that has these psalm books, but I don't know if the pastor's going to give me one. Alright, let's do this actual Bible study. Now that I've officially embarrassed myself for 14 minutes on the internet. But for Yahweh. Aleph, I praise you, O Yahweh, with all my heart. I declare all your wonders. I rejoice and exult in you. I sing praise to your name. I sing praise to your name. See? Dawid. Praise Yahweh. O Most High, bet. When my enemies turn back, they stumble and perish before you. For you executed my right and my cause. You sat on the throne judging in righteousness. We know Psalms 110. Sat on the throne. It's called Trustworthy and True. Oh, here we go. Okay. Revelation 4. After this I looked and saw a door having been opened in the heaven, and the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking to me, saying, Come up here, and I shall show you what has to take place after this. And immediately I came to be in the Spirit, and saw a throne set in the heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he who sat there was like a jasper and a ruby stone in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne like an emerald in appearance. And around the throne were 24 elders. And on the thrones I saw 24 elders sitting, dressed in white robes. And they had crowns of gold on their head. And out of the throne came lightnings and thunders and voices. And 7 lamps of fire were burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like crystal, and in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures covered with eyes in front and in back. And, okay, that's where we're going to stop. And the first living creature was like a lion, and the second living creature like a calf, and the third living creature had a face like a man, and the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle. And the 4 living creatures each had 6 wings, were covered with eyes around and within, and they do not cease day or night, saying, Set apart, set apart, set apart, YHWH El Shaddai, who was and who is coming. And when the living creatures give esteem and respect and thanks to him who sits on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne and bow before him who lives forever and ever. And they cast their crowns before the throne, saying, You are worthy, O YHWH, to receive esteem and respect and power. For you have created all, and because of your desire they are and were created. Who sits on the throne? O YHWH. We know that YHWH judges. And for that, we'll go to Matthew 7. Do not judge lest you be judged, for with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. And with the same measure you use, it shall be measured to you. There is a point in, I was going to say Corinthians, where he talks about a judge, but it might actually be Hebrews. There's a capital J, judge. And I don't know what the rest of the passage or context is. But somewhere there's a capital J, judge, so maybe we'll come across it and I'll reference this video and that video. Alright, let's move on. Gimel, you have rebuked the nations, you have destroyed the wrong, you have wiped out their name forever and ever. Hey, the enemy is no more, ruins everlasting, and you have uprooted the cities. Even their remembrance has perished, but YHWH abides forever. He is preparing his throne for judgment, and he judges the world in righteousness. He judges the peoples in straightness. Obviously, there we go. He judges. Vav. And YHWH is a refuge for the crushed one. YHWH is a refuge. Psalm 7. O YHWH my Elohim, in you I have taken refuge. A refuge in times of distress. And those who know your name trust in you. For you have not forsaken those who seek you, O YHWH. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 12, which I wasn't going to go to, but now I'm seeing this. This is Moses speaking Then we'll go to Jeremiah 23. This is Moses speaking to the children of Israel. Top of 12. These are the laws and right rulings which you guard to do in the land which Yahweh your Elohim of your fathers, is giving you to possess all the days that you live on the soil. Completely destroy all the places where the nations which you are dispossessing serve their mighty ones, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. And you shall break down their slaughter places and smash their pillars and burn their Asherim with fire. And you shall cut down the carved image of their mighty ones and shall destroy their name out of that place. Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim, but seek the place which Yahweh your Elohim chooses out of all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling place, and there you shall enter. And there you shall take your ascending offerings and your slaughterings and your tithes and your contribution of your hand and your vowed offering and your voluntary offering and the firstlings of your herd and your flock. And there you shall eat before Yahweh your Elohim, and shall rejoice in all that you put your hand to, you and your households, in which Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you. Do not do as we are doing here today, each one doing whatever is right in his own eyes, because you have not yet inherited the rest and the inheritance which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. But you shall pass over the Jordan, and shall dwell in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you to inherit, and he shall give you rest from all your enemies round about, and you shall dwell in safety. And it shall be that unto the place which Yahweh your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell there, you are to bring all that I command you, your ascending offerings and your slaughterings and your tithes and your contribution and the contributions of your hand and all your choice offerings which you vow to Yahweh. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim, you and your sons and your daughters and your male servants and your female servants, and a Levite who is within your gates, since he has no portion nor inheritance with you. Guard yourself that you do not offer your ascending offerings in every place that you see, except in the place which Yahweh chooses in one of your tribes. There you are to offer your ascending offerings, and there you are to do all that I command you. Okay. We're going to go then to Jeremiah 23:27, because this is what came up. Start at 25. I have heard what the prophets have said who prophesy falsehood in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. Till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets of falsehood, and the prophets of deceit of the deceit of their own heart, who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams which everyone relates to his neighbor, as their fathers forget my name for Baal? The prophet who has a dream, let him relate the dream, and he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. What is the chaff to the wheat, declares Yahweh? Is not my word like a fire, declares Yahweh, and like a hammer that shatters rock? Therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahweh, who steal my word, everyone from his neighbor. See, I am against the prophets, declares Yahweh, who use their tongues and say, he declares. See, I am against those who prophesy false dreams, declares Yahweh, and relate them, and lead my people astray by their falsehoods and by their reckless boasting. But I myself did not send them, nor have I commanded them. And they do not profit this people at all, declares Yahweh. And when these people, or the prophet, or the priest ask you, saying, what is the message of Yahweh? Then you shall say to them, what message? I shall forsake you, declares Yahweh. As for the prophet and the priest, the people who say, the message of Yahweh, I shall punish that man and his house. This is what each one says to his neighbor and each one to his brother. What has Yahweh answered and what has Yahweh spoken? But the message of Yahweh you no longer remember. For every man's message is his own word. For you have changed the word of the living Elohim, Yahweh of hosts, our Elohim. This is what you say to the prophet. When has Yahweh answered you, and what has Yahweh spoken? But since you say, the message of Yahweh, therefore thus said Yahweh, because you say this word, the message of Yahweh, and I have sent you, saying, do not say the message of Yahweh, therefore, see, I shall utterly forget you and cast you away from my presence along with the city that I gave you and your fathers, and I shall put an everlasting reproach on you and an everlasting shame that is not forgotten. Praise Yahweh. And just for that, false dreamer, false prophet, Go to Deuteronomy 18:18. I shall raise up for them a prophet like you out of the midst of their brothers, and I shall put my words in his mouth, and I shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall be, the man who does not listen to my words, which he speaks in my name, I require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other mighty ones, even that prophet shall die. And when you say in your heart, how do we know the word which Yahuwah has not spoken? When the prophet speaks in the name of Yahuwah, and the word is not or comes not, that is the word which Yahuwah has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. Yeah. Oh, that's a big one. And makes you terrified to prophesy. And I know pastors who do it. I know pastors who... You know what I mean? It's like, I also know people who will, I'm not even going to go there. Let's go on. Hey. Show favor to me, O Yahuwah. See my affliction. Where are we? We were talking about his name. Vav, and Yahuwah is a refuge for the crushed one, a refuge in times of distress. And excuse me. Those who know your name trust in you, for you have not forsaken those who seek you, O Yahuwah. All right. So I guess it's this. I have prophesied falsely before. I have seen pastors prophesy falsely. I know people who will take a prophecy given to them and defy it. And I don't know. I'm not Yahweh. There's a baby gender. It was a baby gender. However, 3 out of 3 dreams for the same baby gender person, for the same way that I prophesied the baby gender and got it wrong, I prophesied 3 out of 3 dreams. So, sorry. But, actually 2 babies. It was 2 babies. The birth of one baby and then the gender of another baby. All right. That's what had to be said. Het, show favor to me, O Yahuwah. See my affliction by those who hate me. You who lift me up from the gates of death, so that I declare all your praise. In the gates of the daughter of Zion, I rejoice in your deliverance. Tet, the nations have sunk down in the pit which they made. There's a psalm about the mountain of Zion that we'll get to later. And I think we're going to wait until there. We definitely are, because it's not the psalm that I thought it was. Although I'm sure it's in Psalm 19, because every word in the Bible is in Psalm 19, because it's 800 verses long. Just kidding. The nations have sunk down in the pit which they made. This had, when I looked at my name, Malachi 1:11. For from the rising of the sun even to its going down, my name is great among nations, and in every place incense is presented to my name, and a clean offering, for my name is great among the nations, said Yahweh of hosts. But you are profaning me in that you say the table of Yahweh is defiled, and its food is despicable. And you said, oh, what weariness, and you sneered at it, said Yahweh of hosts. So yeah, this is rebuke to Israel of their defilement of the name of Elohim. I'll read all of Malachi. The message of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, said Yahweh, but you ask, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, declares Yahweh, and I love Jacob. But I have hated Esau, and have laid waste his mountains and his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness. If Edom says, we have been beaten down, let us return and build the ruins. Yahweh of hosts said thus, let them build, but I tear down, and they shall be called border of wrongness, and the people against whom Yahweh is enraged forever. And your eyes shall see, and you shall say, great is Yahweh beyond the border of Israel. A son esteems his father, and a servant his master. And if I am the father, where is my esteem? And if I am a master, where is my fear? Said Yahweh of hosts to you priests who despise my name. But you asked, in what way have we despised your name? You are presenting defiled food on my slaughter place. But you asked, in what way have we defiled you? Because you say, the table of Yahweh is despicable. And when you present the blind as a slaughtering, is it not evil? And when you present the lame and sick, is it not evil? Bring it then to your governor. Would he be pleased with you? Would he accept you favorably? Said Yahweh of hosts. And now, entreat the face of El to show favor to us. This has been done by your hand. Would he show favor to you, says Yahweh of hosts? Who among you would shut the doors so that you would not kindle fire on my slaughter place for naught? I have no pleasure in you, said Yahweh of hosts. Nor do I accept an offering from your hands. For from the rising of the sun even to its going down, my name is great among nations, and in every place incense is presented to me in a clean offering. For my name is great among nations, said Yahweh of hosts. But you are profaning me, in that you say, the table of Yahweh is defiled, and its food is despicable. And you said, oh, what weariness, and you sneered at it, said Yahweh of hosts. And you brought in plunder, and the lame, and the sick. Thus you have brought in the offering. Should I accept this from your hand, said Yahweh? But cursed be the deceiver who has a male in his flock, and makes a vow, but is slaughtering to Yahweh what is blemished. For I am a great sovereign, said Yahweh of hosts, and my name is feared among nations. Damn Skippy, y'all. Damn Skippy, folk. Sorry. Damn Skippy. You're just right. You're just right. Sorry, I got excited. Okay. The nations have sunk down into the pit which they made. In the net which they hid, their own foot is caught. Yahweh has made himself known. Now that I'm reading this, that was kind of out of context of this verse, because this is about the nations being bad, so we probably should have went to Exodus. But y'all wanted Malachi 1 read, so praise out. Praise Yah. Yahweh has made himself known. He has done right ruling. The wrong is snared in the work of his own hands. Meditation. Selah. Just think about that. The wrong is snared in the work of his own hands. It's like when you try and lie your way out of a lie. Good luck, bub. Yod, the wrong returned to Sheol. All the nations that forget Elohim. Kaf, for the needy is not always forgotten. The wrong returned to Sheol. All the nations that forget Elohim. See if we can find this. Thrown into the fiery pits. There's somebody, this is the second time I've looked for this, and there's somebody out there who just knows where this is. It's like, oh yeah, it's Matthew 21. Which I think it is. I can like see right in the book where it is. And this is like, I had somebody say to me one time, oh yeah, right in the middle of the page. And it only works when you're using the same book. Alright. We're gonna use the restroom. Because that's what people do. Especially when they're drinking water. However, fortunately, it just like, let me read this, 23:15. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you go about the land and the sea to win one convert, and when he is won, you make him a son of Gehenna twofold more than yourself. Nope. Luke. Or maybe Luke, but it's not coming up Luke. Definitely not John. Alright. Apparently I clicked Luke again. This phone's been... Okay. Matthew 18. So somewhere between Matthew 18:9. And if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter into life with one eye rather than having two eyes to be thrown into the fire of Gehenna. I should know Matthew 18 pretty well. It's also in Mark 9:47. Said, I believe, exactly the same. And if your eye makes you stumble, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter into the reign of Elohim with one eye than having two eyes to be thrown into the fire of Gehenna, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. For everyone shall be seasoned with fire, and every offering shall be seasoned with salt. Salt is good, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how shall you season it? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace among one another. And so this is, Mark 9:50 means rebuke your brother if he's out of line, because you love him. See Leviticus 17 and 18. Leviticus 19, 17, and 18. Yo, the wrong return to Sheol. Yeah, sounds about right. Salt is good, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how shall you season it? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace among one another. All the nations that forget Elohim. You are going in to dispossess the nations. Oh, we read. We read almost that. Let's see, how far did we actually get? No, we did not. We read part of Deuteronomy 12. And now we can continue on from 15. Only whatever your being desires you shall slaughter and eat, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you within all your gates. The unclean and the clean do eat of it, of the gazelle and the deer alike. Only the blood you do not eat, pour it on the earth like water. You are not allowed to eat within your gates the tithe of your grain, or of your new wine, or of your oil, or of the firstlings of your herd, or your flock, or of any of your offerings which you vow, or of any of your voluntary offerings, or of the contribution of your hand. But eat them before Yahweh your Elohim, in the place which Yahweh your Elohim chooses, you and your son and your daughter, and your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim in all that you put your hands to. Guard yourself that you do not forsake the Levite as long as you live in your land. When Yahweh your Elohim enlarges your border, as he has promised you, and you say, let me eat meat, because you long to eat meat, you eat as much meat as your being desires. When the place where Yahweh your Elohim chooses to put his name is too far from you, then you shall slaughter from your herd and from your flocks which Yahweh has given you, as I have commanded you, and you shall eat within your gates as much as your being desires. Only as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so you are to eat of it. The unclean and the clean alike eat of it. Only be strong not to eat the blood, for the blood is the life. Do not eat the life with the meat. Do not eat it, you pour it on the earth like water. Do not eat it, that it might be well with you and your children after you, when you do what is right in the eyes of Yahweh. Only the set-apart gifts which you have and your vowed offerings you are to take up, and go to the place which Yahweh chooses. And you shall make your ascending offerings, the meat and the blood, on the slaughter place of Yahweh your Elohim, and the blood of your slaughtering is poured out on the slaughter place of Yahweh your Elohim, and you eat the meat. Guard and obey all these words which I command you, that it might be well with you and your children after you, when you do what is good and right in the eyes of Yahweh your Elohim. When Yahweh your Elohim does cut off from you before the nations which you go to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, guard yourself, that you are not ensnared to follow them, after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire about their mighty ones, saying, how did these nations serve their mighty ones? And let me do so too. Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim, for every abomination which Yahweh hates they have done to their mighty ones, for they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their mighty ones. All the words I am commanding you, guard to do it. Do not add to it, nor take away from it. I talked about that earlier today. Yahweh is perfect. Yet again, Yahweh knows his word better than anybody. Yeshua? Yeah, Yeshua knows the word. Kaf, for the needy is not always forgotten, neither the expectancy of the poor lost forever. Matthew 5:3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, because theirs is the reign of the heavens. Arise, O Yahweh, Do not let man prevail. Let the nations be judged before your face. Put them in fear, O Yahuwah. Let the nations know that they are but men. Selah. You know where we're at now? You know what's up, what's up, what's up? Acts chapter 18. Whip, whip, whip. I'm not peeing within range of the camera. I'm filling up my cup with water. This is a water cooler sound. Well, I don't even know if you can hear it over the air conditioner. Can you even hear me over the air conditioner? That humming is going to go away in the winter, but it's going to be replaced by a periodic, I don't even know what to call it, terrifying, sounds like warp speed hyperdrive going on in my living room once the furnace kicks on, because the furnace is right where I record these videos. So we might switch rooms and shut the door. We've got another room down there. But I don't know. I don't know how I'd do it in there. I really don't know. Acts 18. And after this, Shaul left Athens and went to Corinth. And he found a certain Yehudi named Aculas, born in Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Yehudim to leave Rome, and he came to them. And because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and was working, for they were tent makers by trade. He was reasoning in the congregation every Sabbath and won over both Yehudim and Greeks. And when Silas and Timotheus came down from Macedonia, Shaul was pressed by the Spirit and earnestly witnessed to the Yehudim that Yeshua is the Messiah. However, when they resisted and blasphemed, he shook his garments and said to them, "Your blood is upon your head. I am clean. From now on I shall go to the nations." And having left there, he came to the house of a certain man named Justus, who worshipped Elohim, whose house was next to the congregation. And Crispus, the ruler of the congregation, did believe in the Master with all his household, and many of the Corinthians hearing, believed and were immersed. And the Master spoke to Shaul in the night by a vision, "Do not be afraid, and speak, do not be silent, and do not be silent, because I am with you, and no one shall attack you to do evil, because I have much people in this city." And he remained 1 year and 6 months teaching the word of Yahuwah among them. And when Galion was proconsul of Achaia, the Yehudim with one mind rose up against Shaul and brought him to the judgment seat, saying, "This one does seduce men to worship Elohim contrary to the Torah." And as Shaul was about to open his mouth, Galion said to the Yehudim, "If it were a matter of wrongdoing or wicked recklessness, O Yehudim, there would be reason why I should bear with you. But if it is question of words and names and a law which is among you, see to it yourselves, for I do not wish to be a judge of these matters." And he drove them away from the judgment seat. And all the Greeks took Sosthenes, the ruler of the congregation, and beat him before the judgment seat. But Galion showed no concern whatever. And Shaul, having stayed several days more, having taken leave of the brothers, was sailing for Syria, and Priscilla and Aculas were with him, having shaved his hair at Kenrea. He had taken a vow. And he came to Ephesus and left them there, but he himself went into the congregation and reasoned with the Yehudim. And when they asked him to stay a longer time with them, he declined, but took leave of them, saying, "I have to keep this coming festival in Jerusalem by all means, but I shall come back to you, Elohim desiring so." And he sailed from Ephesus. And having come to Caesarea, going up and greeting the assembly, he went down to Antioch.
And having spent some time there, he went forth, passing through the country of Galatia and on through Phrygia, strengthening all the taught ones. And a certain Yehudi named Apollos, born at Alexandria, a learned man and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. This one had been instructed in the way of the master, and being fervent in spirit, he was speaking and teaching the matters about the master exactly, though he knew only the immersion of Yohanan. And he began to speak boldly in the congregation. And when Archelaus and Priscilla heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of Elohim more exactly. And when he intended to pass through Acacia, the brothers, having encouraged him, wrote to the taught ones to receive him, who, having arrived, greatly helped those who believed through favor. For with power he refuted the Yehudim publicly, showing from the scriptures that Yeshua is the Messiah. A lot of names and words in this one, so pardon my pronunciations. What are the scriptures? What are the scriptures when Shaul is doing all this? Quick question. And after this, Shaul left Athens and went to Corinth. Simple enough. See the map on Acts 17, and if you need a copy of it, there is a link to it in the description of the Acts 17 video. And he found a certain Yehudi named Oculus, named Oculus, born in Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Yehudim to leave Rome, and he came to them. So, Claudius is the king, I'm going to assume. Maybe not a king, but maybe, doesn't sound like a Yehudi. I guess he could be a Yehudi. I know there's a Herodotus in chapter 12. I don't know who Claudius is. But he is some man with the authority to tell Jews to leave Rome. That's who he is. That I can assure you. And so, Oculus is a Yehudi, a Jew, who leaves Rome to go to Greece. I didn't realize at this time that Italy was a place, but apparently Italy was a place. I guess it must be, because Greece is a place, and I think Rome takes over Greece. I don't know. I don't really understand. I'm not super good at history and timelines, and we don't really talk too much about that because it's just less important than, being of one mind and tithing the mint, the rue, and the anise, but also not neglecting the weightier matters of the Torah, which is Matthew 23:22. 23:23. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you tithe the mint and the anise and the cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the Torah, the right ruling and the compassion and the belief. These need to have been done without neglecting the others. The right ruling and the compassion and the belief. The wording in Luke 11:42 is somewhat different. But woe to you, Pharisees, because you tithe the mint and the rue and every plant, and pass by the right ruling and the love of Elohim. These you should have done without leaving the others undone. Yeah. I was going to say, we read earlier about woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, and it was in 23:15. So twice he says this, 3 times he says this, 4 times he says this, 5 times. 6 times, 7 times in Matthew 23 does Yeshua say, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Oh, this is going to be a fun chapter. I'm excited to do Matthew 23. However, it won't be till like December, so we'll talk about it later. Okay. This is also a cool point, 18:3. I heard about this from many people and never knew where it was and never understood how it could contextually fit. But if this is the only place that it is, I think people use it way out of context, but I'm going to continue to look for it as we read more of the epistles. And because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and was working, for they were tent makers by trade. So we know that everybody tells me that Shaul was a tent maker, and that's cool, but they make it sound like he was, like, I don't know, like, sitting at home making tents 90% of the time, and then just, like, you know, doing 10% Elohim stuff. And I just don't see how you, like, what's he bringing all his tent making stuff as he sails from Athens to Corinth and then to Syria and friggin' Greek and Rome, and I mean, like, look at the map. He's friggin' everywhere, you know what I mean? And how many years is the book of Acts? I don't really know, but I think my other Bible would say it. But keep this in mind. Point being that Shaul was a tent maker, and that's all we're going to say about that. You need money to serve Elohim. He knows that. And Oculus stays with Shaul and works with them. For them, we're tent makers by trade. So Shaul accepts him in, and they all start making tents together, which is also telling, because it doesn't talk about them all living together at any point. It does say they were of one mind and one accord at one place, but these are like specific occurrences, you know what I mean? Like the one mind thing, yeah, which they should be of one mind, but alright, so maybe this guy just comes and he gets a job as a tent maker, and then things escalate from there. He was reasoning in the congregation every Sabbath and won over both Yehudim and Greeks. So this is Oculus winning over Yehudim and Greeks. Although he might be a believer. So, Athens and Corinth, both in Rome. Shaul is I'm literally looking at the word. Both in Greek. Both in Greece. Corinthians, Greek. Athens, Greek. Oculus comes from Rome to Greece and starts teaching in the congregations. Every Sabbath, where should you be? Every Sabbath, what is the day that we're supposed to go to the temple and worship Elohim? The Sabbath. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Why is he in the... They're about to rebuke him later in this chapter for saying that he's teaching against Torah. Why is he in the temple on the Sabbath teaching about Torah instead of doing it on Sunday if you're going to do it, if Elohim wanted to change to Sunday? Negative. No. Not how it works. And when Silas and Timotheus came down from Macedonia, Shaul was pressed by the Spirit and earnestly witnessed to the Yehudim that Yeshua is the Messiah. So now he's got his boys coming up, and he's got this new guy, Oculus, it's Shaul, the apostle Shaul, and now his boys are coming through, Silas and Timotheus, and he's like, yo, let's go. Let's get these Yehudim. However, when they resisted and blasphemed, he shook his garments and said to them, your blood is upon your head, I am clean. From now on I shall go to the nations. And so this is where Shaul goes to the nations. So this is another thing that people teach. I've always heard that Elohim directed Shaul to be, to teach the nations and Peter to teach the Yehudim, but I'm pretty sure that this is discrepancy between Shaul and the Shaul and the Jews, and he's like, I'm going to go to the nations, and then Peter ends up taking on the Yehudim because he's a little bit more Jewy than Shaul. And he's a little bit more like you see in Acts 10. Like, Shaul's like, oh, I've never eaten what is common or unclean. And he explains it again in Acts 11. And 11:3, you went into uncircumcised men and ate with them. And then Peter goes in, he's like, look, I get it, but here's the whole 9. And we'll see again later that Shaul rebukes Peter. And Acts 10 will come up as a witness that Peter has a habit of falling into the customs of Yehudim rather than trusting in the word. Your blood is upon your head, I am clean. If we go to Ezekiel 3, we've got witness for that. Yeheskel. Ezekiel 3, and he said to me, Son of man, eat what you find, eat this scroll, and go speak to the house of Israel. And I opened my mouth, and he fed me the scroll. And he said to me, Son of man, feed your stomach, and fill your stomach with this scroll that I am giving you. And I ate it, and it was sweet as honey in my mouth. And he said to me, Son of man, go to the house of Israel, and you shall speak to them with my words. For you are not sent to the people of a foreign speech and of difficult language, but to the house of Israel. Not to many people of foreign speech and of difficult language, whose words you do not understand. If I had rather sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the house of Israel is going to refuse to listen to you. For they, and I mean, this is incredible that this is, like, we're reading this as a witness to Acts 18:6, because this is literally what's happening to Shaul, so praise Yah. But the house of Israel is going to refuse to listen to you, for they refuse to listen to me. For all the house of Israel are hard of head and hard of heart. See, I shall make your... Man, hard of head and hard of heart. That is not what you want to be. Damn, God doesn't make it easy to not be that. I love you, Yahweh. See, I shall make your face as hard as their faces, and your forehead as hard as their foreheads. Like adamant stone harder than flint, I shall make your forehead. Do not be afraid of them, nor be discouraged at their looks, for they are a rebellious house. Yah, do this to me. I could use some of this. And he said to me, Son of man, receive into your heart all my words that I speak to you, and hear with your ears. And go, come to the exiles, to the children of your people, and speak to them, and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, whether they hear or whether they refuse. And the Spirit lifted me up, and behind me I heard the sound of a great rumbling voice. Blessed be the Elohim, blessed be the esteem of Yahweh from his place, and the sound of the wings of the living creatures touching one another, and the sounds of the wheels behind them, and the sound of a great rushing. And the Spirit lifted me and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of my spirit, while the hand of Yahweh was strong upon me. And I came to the exiles in Tel Aviv, who were dwelling at the river Kabar, and I sat where they were sitting, and sat there stunned among them 7 days. And it came to be at the end of 7 days that the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and shall warn them from me. When I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, and you have not warned him, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his way, to save his life, that same wrong man shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. But if you have warned the wrong, and he does not turn from his wrong, nor from his wrong way, he shall die in his crookedness, and you have delivered your being. And when a righteous one turns from his righteousness, and shall do unrighteousness, when I have put a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you did not warn him, he shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done is not remembered, and his blood I require at your hand. But if you have warned the righteous one that the righteous shall not sin, and he did not sin, he shall certainly live, because he had been warned, and you delivered your being. And the hand of Yahweh came upon me there, and he said to me, Arise, go out into the plain, so that I might speak to you there. So I got up and went out into the plain, and see, the esteem of Yahweh stood there, like the esteem which I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell on my face. And the Spirit entered me, and set me on my feet, and spoke with me, and said to me, Go, shut yourself inside your house. And you, son of man, see, they shall put cords on you and bind you with them, so that you do not go out in their midst. And I make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you shall be dumb, and not be a reprover to them, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with you, I open your mouth, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh. He who hears, let him hear, and he who refuses, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house. Okay. Acts 18:7. And having left there, he came to the house of a certain man named Justus, who worshipped Elohim, whose house was next to the congregation. So, Justus is from Acts 1. It had... assumingly, possibly the same Justus, possibly not the same Justus, but Acts 1:23 has a Justus in it. Not the same Justus, apparently.
in my heart, I'm convicted that it's not the same justice. Who worshipped Elohim, whose house was next to the congregation. However, he just happens to be their neighbor. So, the congregation of this Yahudim. And Crispus, the gene splicer, in 2024, no. Negative. I rebuke that in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. And I give no power to that cause. In Yeshua name, amen. And Crispus, the ruler of the congregation, did believe in the master with all his household. And many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were immersed. Also, learning about where the Corinthians are. So, there's a lot of information in my New American Bible, before every book. And so, they tell me where all these people are, but I didn't know, and now I'm going to use the map, and so I'll know a little bit better, and I'll understand, who was Jews and who was not Jews. Many of the Corinthians believed and were immersed. Corinth in Greece, gotcha. And they're being baptized. They're hearing, they believe, they're immersed. So Shaul's preaching to these Yehudim. They resist. He shakes off his garment. Shake the dust off your feet. Matthew 10. And whoever does not receive you nor hear your words when you leave that house or city, shake the dust from your feet. Truly I say to you, it shall be more bearable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Okay. And then there's a guy next to this congregation named Justus, who's a worshiper. Shaul meets him at his house, probably knocks on the door. The Spirit says, go into that house, and he goes, bang, bang, bang. I am Shaul. Listen to me about Yeshua the HaMashiach. And this guy Justus goes, I would love to hear about Yeshua HaMashiach. Who probably tells Crispus, because he's got a relationship, he's neighbors, he's like, hey, you want me to mow your lawn? I got these goats over here. It's 48 AD, and these goats can mow your lawn if you need the congregation landscaped a little bit. Otherwise, I got these Mexicans over here. They'll do it for 4 pesos an hour. Pretty good deal. Man, verse 8, just full of jokes here. Ruler of the congregation, start talking, believes in the master with all his household. And many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were immersed. And these are Corinthians. And the master spoke to Shaul in the night vision. Do not be afraid, but speak, and do not be silent, because I am with you. And no one shall attack you to do evil, because I have much people in this city. He's like, yo, I got people in Corinth, and that's probably why we get 28 chapters of Corinth letters, which is by far the longest epistle. I think Romans is 16 chapters, but there's 1 Corinthians, it's 15 chapters, and then 2 Corinthians is 13. So, many believers, and Yeshua says, do not be afraid. Now, at this point, Shaul has been in jail. They stoned him nearly to death in Acts. Acts 14, they stoned him nearly to death. And then I think in Acts 16, he's put in jail and beaten, I think again nearly to death, having laid many blows on them. they threw them into jail, commanding the jailer to keep them safely. 1623. So, not necessarily to death, but... So, at this point, twice he's almost been killed, and he's been in jail, and he's like, nah, I'm done with you guys. You guys are not, you ain't worth my time. And Yeshua comes and speaks to Shaul in the night by a vision and says, do not be afraid, but speak, and do not be silent, because I am with you. And no one shall attack you in this, to do you evil, because I have much people in this city. And he remained 1 year and 6 months, teaching the word of Yahweh among them. So he starts seeing, this is what a good leader does. This is what a good master does, a good king. Starts seeing his man gets fatigued, and he's like, yo, take a break. And so Shaul hangs out in Corinth for 1.5 years, teaching the word of Yahweh among them, the capital word. Interesting how that's used, teaching the word, teaching about the master, but the word, teaching the word, spreading the good news. And when Galion was proconsul of Achaia, the Yehudim with one mind rose up against Shaul and brought him to the judgment seat, saying, this one does seduce men to worship Elohim contrary to the Torah. So, again, we see this one mind, but now it's being used against the apostles, which to me is interesting, having been with the 12 tribes, because their whole shtick is one mind. But, like, you know, I think that one mind is the unity, and I think that the unifying spirit is a lot more important and powerful than people understand. And it's not just the love that will bring people together, like music brings people together, and it's a different spirit. Yup, this is the bathroom break again. Do you guys take the bathroom breaks like I take them? This one does seduce men. I find it interesting that they use the word seduce there, because it's just so not like Bible-like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem, it's not court-like, and it's not Bible-like. You know, unprofessional. To worship contrary to the Torah. However, 9 verses ago, they were in the congregation every Sabbath. So, yeah. I think their point is that this is not the Messiah, as they still believe today. And as Shaul was about to open his mouth, Galion said to the Yehudim, if it were a matter of wrongdoing or wicked recklessness, O Yehudim, there would be reason why I should bear with you. So, proconsul, I'm basically assuming this is like mayor, governor type deal.
And they come to him and they're like, this guy is teaching stuff that we don't agree with, and we want you to kill him. And the guy's like, that ain't my job. I don't care. He ain't breaking any of my laws. But if it is a question of words and names and a law which is among you, see to it yourselves, for I do not wish to be a judge of these matters. So they probably have laws against murder. They probably have laws against, stoning people, killing people, burning this guy's house down. So the Yehudim aren't going to do all that to break Greek law, but they are going to gripe about it. And this is kind of cool. He said, if it is a question of words and names and a law which is among you. Words, you know what I mean? So like he's giving them freedom of religion, essentially, freedom of speech to this degree. And he drove them away from the judgment seat. Get out of here! Dang Yehudi. And all the Greeks took Sosthenes, the ruler of the congregation, and beat him before the judgment seat. But Galion showed no concern whatever. Okay. So, yeah. So, I guess he's not doing anything about them beating people up right out there. He's like, do you guys. And this is kind of surprising because it's like, what are you there for there, lawman? Oh, wait, America, 2024. Bless America, Yahweh. Blessed be America. New York City. New York City needs your love put upon it. They're beating people in front of courthouses and killing law officers. Not the same as beating your apostles. What is it? I love America. It's a great country. It's got so much potential. Freedoms here are unmatched anywhere in the world. We're allowing criminals to run rampant. We're not getting evil out of the camp. We're not punishing people. We're not reproving our neighbor. There's much blood to be shed. By these people. They're here to shed blood. Let them know. I do not smile upon them. That's terrifying. And Shaul, having stayed several days more, having taken leave of the brothers, was sailing for Syria, and Priscilla and Oculus were with him, having shaved his hair in Caesarea, for he had taken a vow. What vow? Well, you might ask. Possibly a number 6 vow. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, when a man or a woman does separate by making a vow of a Nazirite to be separate to Yahweh. He separates himself from wine and strong drink. He drinks neither vinegar or wine, nor vinegar of strong drink. Neither does he drink any grape juice, nor eat grapes or raisins. All the days of his separation he does not eat whatever is made of the grapevine from seed to skin. All the days of the vow of his separation, a razor does not come upon his head, until the days are completed for which he does separate himself to Yahweh, which is set apart. He shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow long. And the days of his separation to Yahweh he does not go near a dead body. He does not make himself unclean for his father or for his mother, for his brother or his sister when they die, because his separation to Elohim is on his head. All the days of his separation he is set apart to Yahweh. And when anyone dies beside him in an instant, suddenly, and he has defiled the head of his separation, then he shall shave his head on the day of his cleansing. On the seventh day he shaves it. And on the 8th day he brings 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons to the priest to the door of the tent of appointment. And to the priest shall prepare one as a sin offering, and the other as an ascending offering, and shall make atonement for him, because he sinned by reason of the dead body. And he shall set apart his head on that day, and shall separate to Yahweh the days of his separation, and shall bring a male lamb a year old as a guilt offering. But the former days are not counted, because his separation was defiled. And this is the Torah of the Nazarite when the days of his separation are completed. He is brought to the door of the tent of appointment. I'm trying to understand this. Prepare one as a sin offering, the other as an ascending offering, and shall make atonement for him, because he sinned by reason of a dead body. He shall set apart his head on that day, and shall separate to Yahweh the days of his separation, and shall bring a male lamb a year old as a guilt offering. But the former days are not counted, because his separation was defiled. So he has to restart his Nazarite vow if he gets defiled by a dead body. And this is the Torah of the Nazarite. When the days of his separation are completed, he is brought to the door of the tent of appointment. And he shall bring his offering to Yahweh, 1 male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as an ascending offering, and 1 ewe lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as a sin offering, and 1 ram, a perfect one, as a peace offering, and a basket of unleavened bread, cakes with fine flour mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and their grain offering with their drink offerings. And the priest shall bring them before Yahweh, and prepare his sin offering and his ascending offerings. And he shall prepare the ram as a slaughtering of peace offerings to Yahweh, together with the basket of unleavened bread. And the priest shall prepare its grain offering and its drink offering. And the Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tent of appointment, and shall take the hair from his head, from the head of his separation, and shall put it on the fire which is under the slaughtering of the peace offerings. And the priest shall take the boiled shoulder of the ram, and 1 unleavened cake from the basket, and 1 unleavened wafer, and put them upon the hands of the Nazarite after he shaved his hair of separation. Then the priest shall wave them, a wave offering before Yahweh. It is set apart for the priest beside the breast of the wave offering, and beside the thigh of the contribution. And afterwards the Nazarite shall drink wine. This is the Torah of the Nazarite who vows to Yahweh the offering for his separation, and besides that, whatever else his hand is able to provide, according to the vow which he takes, so he shall do according to the Torah of his separation. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is how you bless the children of Israel. Say to them, Yahweh bless you and guard you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall bless them. Tonight's a little blessing night. I got to remember that. Yeah. That's the Torah of the Nazarite. So when you ask, for he had taken a vow in verse 18 of chapter 18 of Acts, that is the vow Somewhere in Ezekiel there's something about hair. Look, 5. And you, son of man, take a sharp sword. Take it as a barber's razor, and you shall pass it over your head and your beard, and you shall take scales to weigh and divide the hair. Burn with fire 1/3 in the midst of the city when the days of the siege are completed, and you shall take 1/3 and strike it around with the sword, and scatter 1/3 in the wind, and I shall draw out a sword after them. You shall take a few hairs from there, and bind them in the corners of your garment, and take again some of them, and throw them into the midst of the fire, and burn them in the fire. From it a fire shall spread unto the house of Israel. Thus said the Master Yahweh. This is Jerusalem, which I have set in the midst of their nations with the other lands all around her. But she rebelled against my right rulings, doing wrong, more than the nations, and my laws more than the lands around her. For they have rejected my right ruling, and they have not walked in my laws. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahweh, because you have rebelled more than the nations all around you, and have not walked in my laws, nor done my right rulings, nor even done according to the right rulings of the nations all around you, therefore, thus said the Master Yahweh, look, I myself am against you, and shall execute judgments in your midst before the eyes of the nations. And I shall do among you what I have never done, and the like of which I never do again, because of all your abominations. Therefore fathers are going to eat their sons in their midst, and sons eat their fathers, and I shall execute judgment among you, and scatter all your remnant to the winds. Therefore, as I live, declares the Master Yahweh, because you have defiled my set-apart place with all your disgusting matters, and with all your abominations, therefore I also withdraw. And my eye shall not pardon, nor shall I spare. 1/3 of you shall die of pestilence, and be consumed with scarcity of food in your midst, and 1/3 shall fall by the sword all around you. And I shall scatter another third to all the winds, and draw out a sword after them, and my displeasure shall be completed. And I shall bring my wrath to rest upon them, and I shall be eased. And they shall know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it in my ardor, when I have completed my wrath upon them. And I shall make you a waste and a reproach among the nations that are all around you, before the eyes of all who pass by. And it shall be a reproach, an object of scorn, a warning, and an astonishment to the nations that are all around you, when I execute judgment around you in displeasure, among you in displeasure and in wrath, and in heated chastisement, I, Yahweh, have spoken. When I send against them the evil arrows of scarcity of food, which shall be for their destruction, which I send to destroy you, I shall increase the scarcity of food upon you, and cut off your supply of bread. And I shall send against you scarcity of food and evil beasts, and they shall bereave you, and pestilence and blood shall pass through you, while I bring the sword against you. I, Yahweh, have spoken. This is interesting to see. 1/3 of you shall die of pestilence, 1/3 shall fall by the sword, and I shall scatter another third to all the winds. Revelation much? And he came to Ephesus, and left them there. But he himself went into the congregation, and reasoned with the Yehudim. And when they asked him to stay a longer time with them, he declined, but took leave of them, saying, I have to keep this coming festival in Jerusalem by all means, but I shall come back to you, Elohim desiring so. And he sailed from Ephesus. He goes to Ephesus. And having come to Caesarea, going up and greeting the assembly, he went down to Antioch. I just want to see this here. Revelation 8:10. And the third messenger sounded, and a great star fell from the heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the fountains of water, and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. And the fourth messenger sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened, and a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an eagle flying in mid-heaven, crying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to those dwelling upon the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpets of the three messengers who are about to sound. Third of the rivers and fountains of the earth of water, and a third of the waters became wormwood. So here we've got 2/3 of waters becoming inusable. Oh, we go up one more. Two more. Sorry, I should have just read Revelation 8. And the first messenger sounded. Okay. Then let's read Revelation 8. And when he opened the seventh seal, there came to be silence in the heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the seven messengers who stand before Elohim, and to them were given seven trumpets. And another messenger came and stood at the slaughter place, holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the set-apart ones upon the golden slaughter place, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the set-apart ones went up before Elohim from the hand of the messenger. And the messenger took the censer, and filled it with fire from the slaughter place, and threw it to the earth, and there were noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. And the seven messengers who held the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. And the first messenger sounded, and there came to be hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. And the second messenger sounded, and what looked like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. And a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And the third messenger sounded, and a great star fell from the heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers, and on the fountains of water, and on the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. And the fourth messenger sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. And a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an eagle flying in mid-heaven, crying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to those dwelling upon the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet, and of the three messengers who are about to sound. A third of the waters became bitter.
third of the ships were destroyed. Works. Ships are works. Bitter waters. These waters are teachings. The sun. Is the light to rule the day. The moon is the lesser light to rule the night. And the stars. The appointed times. The works, the teachings. Alright. That's all. That's all. Acts 20. When they asked him to stay, let's go to 19. And he came to Ephesus and left them there. But he himself went into the congregation and reasoned with the Yehudim. And when they asked him to stay a longer time with them, he declined. But took leave of them, saying, I have to keep this coming festival in Jerusalem by all means, but I shall come back to you, Elohim desiring so. And he sailed from Ephesus. And having come to Caesarea, going up and greeting the assembly, he went down to Antioch. Look at your map. And having spent some time there, he went forth, passing through the country of Galatia,
and on through Phrygia, strengthening all the taught ones. And a certain Yehudi named Apollos, born at Alexandria, a learned man and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. The Old Testament. This one had been instructed in the way of the Master, and being fervent in spirit, he was speaking and teaching the matters about the Master exactly, though he knew only the immersion of Yohanan. So he'd been baptized in John, and he's teaching from the scriptures why the Messiah is the true Messiah, but he's a little bit off. So this says exactly, but it more means like matter of factly, because, and he began to speak boldly in the congregation, and when Oculus and Priscilla heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of Elohim more exactly. So, this husband and wife team is traveling together, and it's interesting that it seems like every time I meet with this pastor who has this thing about women being teachers in church, I always end up reading a scripture where a woman is in a position of leadership. Like it was, I was in John 20, where Mary Magdalene is the first one to see Jesus. Now I'm in this. I had a meeting with a pastor today from Redemption Church. And, yeah, talked about, he's got this thing about women being leaders. So, women are great leaders. They just need to not intend leadership, pride by leadership. That's all, just as men. And then know your place, that you're subservient to the men. Husbands are in submission to the wives, but wives be in submission to your husbands. And when he intended to pass through Acacia, the brothers, having encouraged him, wrote to the taught ones who received him, who, having arrived, greatly helped those who believed through favor. So, he is fired up with the Spirit, gets his stuff straightened out, and then he wants to go to Acacia, and so the brothers are like, all right, and they send him with this reference letter, and they go, here you go. For with power he refuted the Yehudim publicly, showing from the scriptures that Yeshua is the Messiah. Was no book of Acts yet. Was no Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Yet Yeshua is still the Messiah. Praise Yahweh.